Evening, all of you. I'm thankful and grateful that we are having another podcast and our guest is here. We will be introducing soon, but before that, wanted to tell you about Unfiltered Gupshups podcast, offering raw, candid conversation on variety of topics, ranging from culture and social issues to the personal growth and current events. The podcast features unfiltered discussion that aims to inspire, entertain, and provoke thought, all while maintaining the authentic, engaging tone. Unfiltered Gupshup provides a space for real talk without any boundaries. Also, it celebrates people behind the podcast, like the Supreme Power, family, AB photos, and the community. Thank you very much. And today's guest, we have Mr. Gautam Aggarwal. Thank you for joining today's podcast. Let me introduce a little bit of him because he does so much of work, so he can tell himself more. So Gautam has been a resident of Triangle area since 1988 and currently resides in Morrisville with his wife and 2 children. As a seasoned professional, Gautam co-founded a boutique life sciences strategies consulting firm where he played an important role in guiding clients on corporate, commercial, and research and development strategy topics. In addition to his successful career, Gautam is serving TiE Carolina as the president of local chapter on a global non-profit organization. Thank you, Gautam. Welcome, and please tell more about yourself.
Thank you, Aditi. First of all, thank you for everything you do for the community. I think it's great to be part of Gupshup and to be able to share a little bit about my story. So thank you for the opportunity. I'll talk a little bit about kind of my background and my story. Thank you for those warm introductions. So like you mentioned, I moved here in the Raleigh-Durham area in the late 80s with my parents, kind of trying to follow the American dream. At that time, my parents and my grandparents, who also moved here at the similar time, were really kind of believers in education. So kind of the desire to move us here when I was 12 years old was to make sure that I got an education which they felt would kind of help me in my career and in my brother's careers as well. So that focus on career, that focus on education was something that really was important to me as I grew up. But also, I'd say honestly, when I went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergraduate and for Duke for my MBA, I'm not sure how focused a student I was. It really kind of took the opportunity to get my first job and kind of the focus and the support of my wife, who I thank every day, to really kind of push me and to kind of convert some of that educational kind of ability that I had, along with just really being able to work hard. And to your point, kind of one of the first companies that I worked with, Triangle Insights Group, was a company we started about 12 years ago, working with pharmaceutical companies, helping them with strategy. And I was successful enough and lucky enough to be able to sell that company about 3 years ago to a private equity company. But since then, as I've had the opportunity to kind of sit back and think a little bit more about how I want to kind of spend my career and support other kind of missions, I've started to get involved with a few nonprofits. So I know you've done a lot of support for TiE and TiE Carolinas. So I'm the president locally of TiE Carolinas. TiE Carolinas is an organization that focuses on innovation and entrepreneurship. I can tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But in addition to that, I'm also the campus chair lead for HSNC for the temple expansion, for the campus expansion that we're trying to do. Project. So that's a large, bold vision project that we have, thanks to several people who worked really hard to kind of get it there, and really hoping to be able to support that. So those are a couple of the things that are keeping me busy right now.
That's awesome. In this busy schedule you came for us. That's very thankful. What is your vision on being an entrepreneur? Can you share the vision of TiE Carolinas, how it supports?
Yeah, of course. I think from my vision perspective, I think it's really amazing right now as I talk to several people within the local ecosystem, when I see young kids who are really interested in starting their own businesses. I know kind of one of these stories is your son, someone who graduated from college not too long ago and is starting to think about how to do things differently, how to create a new business. So for me, kind of just seeing that passion is really amazing. And the vision I have kind of related to that is, how can we support young entrepreneurs? How can we support kind of not only the Asian Indian community, but kind kind of our larger local ecosystem in terms of thinking about how to create new businesses, hopefully how to succeed earlier, or even honestly how to fail earlier, making sure that there's the ability to speak to each other and learn from each other. So part of what TiE Carolinas does is make sure that there's an ability to connect some of those dots with some folks who've already done that, maybe some folks who potentially can provide some services or some support for people who are entrepreneurs. So I think we're at a pretty pivotal and an amazing point in the Carolinas where there's lots of smart people kind of coming in from the outside. There's a lot of smart kids who are growing up here. We're starting to think about kind of doing some pretty cool things, which I think will change the world in the future. So kind of really happy, and that's one of the things that excites me, is to be a small part of that fabric.
So as a president, as you mentioned a lot of things, but still I would like to ask you what initiatives and like what kind of emphasis you are providing from the entrepreneur point of view, like how the young entrepreneurs are going to get benefited from TiE or the community we have around us.
Sure, absolutely. So the way we're thinking about TiE right now is that there's 3 key pillars that we focus on. The first pillar is focused on mentorship. So as you know, we have a high school pitch program that we run every year. We've been doing that for roughly 10 years. I'll talk about the outcome we've had and then a little bit about what that means. But 2 years ago, the winning team from TiE Carolinas won the global TiE competition. Last year, our global team came in number 3, but then has moved on to also then present at CES. They were the only high school team to have a booth there, and then have also been part of several challenges which they've done an amazing job with. So I'll talk maybe a little bit later more about that team. But the high school pitch program is about an 8-month process where we go through different training classes for them. Every Wednesday, spend a couple hours with these students, and then eventually have them think about creating a new business idea. Oftentimes, these students come up with a business idea that means something to them as high schoolers, and then we have mentors, kind of other people who can support them in the creation of that idea and think about how to take it forward. What's been really nice has been thinking about the recent team Sober Ride that is not only doing this from an academic and from a college credential perspective, but also actually thinking about making this a potential real company. So that's kind of one pillar, is kind of mentorship and supporting entrepreneurs like that. We have a very similar college-focused program to that as well. The second pillar we focus on is education and networking. So kind of every month or so we'll have an event where people get together, have the opportunity to learn from each other, and really kind of bounce ideas or think about how to work on their businesses. Or some people are entrepreneurs, not necessarily entrepreneurs, how to think about entrepreneurship even within a larger organization. Kind of making sure we can support that connectivity is kind of the second pillar. And the third pillar we support at TiE Carolinas is investment. So thinking beyond investment within the stock market or thinking beyond things like real estate investment, how should folks think about further diversification in their portfolio with private investment? So we're actually having our investment club meeting on Wednesday, kind of a couple of days from here, where people can talk about what are they seeing and just think a little bit about and get ideas from each other in terms of how to continue to grow in their way of investing as well.
So what are the success stories you have as you as an entrepreneur, and how you as a mentor, have you done any mentorship through TiE or in separately you have done anything?
Yeah, kind of both. So for me personally, in terms of mentoring support, have of course been part of the high school kind of mentoring teams, but in addition to that, part of a few different angel communities and different mentoring communities here locally. So there's a group called First Flight. So I'm a navigator at First Flight, kind of where we often have, and my focus historically has been healthcare and pharma. So they have a good bit of healthcare companies that are thinking of forming and have played a role in mentoring and supporting them in terms of as they're thinking through their business ideas. I'm also associated with some of the local universities in terms of for their students, for some of their professors, helping them think through the business ideas they have. So kind of do a little bit there as well as a mentor or an executive in residence.
So any success stories of you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I'd say kind of my biggest success story, and I'm a one-time entrepreneur, is the fact that we were able to grow our company to about 60, 70 team members and be able to kind of sell that company to private equity. honestly, being able to work with that company, with that team for 10 years, to be able to provide real support to our clients was a lot of hard work,
Yes,
lots of long hours to be able to get to that growth, but was also very enjoyable just to see students who we had hired from UNC undergrad, 10 years from there, be able to be the people that are running this company now to this day and continue to help it grow. Was nice to be able to be part of that historically, and now just being able to see that happen with me being less a part of that is also still very nice.
Awesome. So what are the challenges people have while planning as startups? What advice you would give? What is your experience tells?
Yeah, I think there's lots of challenges, right? First of all, I think it's hard to be an entrepreneur because most companies
The first
fail.
challenge is to be one.
Yeah, I think coming up with the right idea, right? I think a lot of people even think about what's the right idea. Do you have to come up with the perfect idea to start off with? But I think that ideation stage can be challenging, and what's your success going to be? It's a lot of hours to succeed, a lot of different hats you have to wear. Lots of also, and I think this one is maybe underestimated, is making sure that you continue to talk to potential customers of your idea, to continue to pivot, to continue to refine what you're creating. Because I think sometimes entrepreneurs can be so focused on their way of thinking that they're really not collecting feedback from the market to be able to continue to adjust their way of thinking. One other thing that I'll add right now is every startup, one way or another, talks about AI as being part of their focus, right? And I think that's great, but at the same time, I think there can be challenges with AI in terms of what truly is the moat, or how do you make sure that other people can't do the same thing that you're doing? Is it just a matter of speed? Are there other things that will allow you to have scalable, continued growth in revenue and profitability? So I think there's a lot of challenges along with just the macro markets these days. We're in some pretty turbulent and some times right now, from an interest rate, from a tariff, from everything perspective, that makes it hard for entrepreneurs as well. So lots of challenges.
Yeah, like you have to be the fastest on the table.
You have to be the fastest, and I think you also have to be very deliberate.
Wise
so it's a lot, right? And I think the thinking in my mind is very different for entrepreneurs on the West Coast versus here, where there's a thinking of failure is okay, oftentimes for ecosystems which have done that a lot. Here, I think failure is not necessarily embraced as much as I think actually it should be. It's okay to some extent, fail, but maybe fail fast. The idea you may have sounded great to you, but figure out if it's right. If it's not, then do something else, right? So, and being young, I think there's also the opportunity, if that business idea doesn't work, hopefully you can work for a company and be able to do something else, right? So, I have two kids. I have a 18-year-old, actually a 19-year-old boy in college, and a 17-year-old 12th grader. I tell them that it's consider entrepreneurship, right? You learn quickly when you have the opportunity to think through all aspects of a business.
Yes. So what are the key qualities one should have to stand out in the race?
Yeah, so I think two things, and sometimes I think these two things can be counter to each other. So I think one is resilience, being able to push through and get things done, even the world may be saying this is a bad idea. But I think the counter to that, which I think is equally important, is making sure that you have the ability to hear and learn from the market in terms of how you should potentially change your solution. So don't listen just to the negativity of what's out there, because there's often a lot of negativity. Continue to be solid in terms of your thinking, but at the same time continue to think about how you could do even better, or how you can service a more specific customer segment in a more meaningful way than what you have. So I think it's important to find the right mentors, to find the right people who've done similar things in the past, to be able to continue to grow.
And believe in yourself. Like if the faith is gone, you are also gone.
Ultimately, it's you, right? It's you and your beliefs that can cause you to succeed. That can be such an important part of it.
So what upcoming model will be popular? What do you think that what are the upcoming businesses that can flourish more?
So again, I'll go back to everything is related to AI. So I'm typically actually a believer in do the opposite, or think of things that are different than what a lot of the world is thinking about. So one of the places that I'm interested in right now is actually businesses and services and companies that are highly unlikely to be impacted by AI. One of the things that kind of in the investment and entrepreneurship space that people talk about right now is ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition.
Okay.
So kind of one of the other TiE Carolina individuals was supporting an investment related to a paving business recently. So paving businesses are not going to go away. Paving businesses are not going to get that much impacted. Maybe from a marketing perspective or from finance perspective, or even from a robotic perspective, maybe there'll be things that will change. But the paving businesses were going to continue to require kind of paving of roads, whether it's a human driving it or a robot driving it, right? Kind of another similar thing, kind of, I was having a conversation earlier today about crematoriums, right? Kind of people are going to continue to die, and kind of Hindus have different kind of religious beliefs, and there's relatively few of those type of businesses out here. So how can you find something which may actually be to some extent an old school business? It doesn't have to be something which is scalable technology, something that's going to go up and be a $1 billion business. I think there's ways to be an entrepreneur which actually are not necessarily that innovative, but can still drive a lot of value and provide service to the community.
Yes. So what inspired you to take up the leadership program in TiE, and how you are serving our local community as well?
Sure. So from a TiE leadership perspective, I kind of mentioned earlier, I thrive, I enjoy conversations related to entrepreneurship and new businesses, new ideas. So for me, just being part of that local ecosystem, especially as I had a bit more time after the sale of my company. So for me, that calling kind of came relatively soon after that transaction. And similar to that, kind of one of the other things that I alluded to earlier, and to the second part of your question in terms of the local community, I moved here when I was in middle school from India, but have always had kind of high connectivity. As I think about my children and kind of hopefully their children, I think it's important for me to see, or at least give them the opportunity to continue to have connectivity to Hinduism, to our kind of community, to our culture back in India. My kids kind of went through kind of Sanskar Gurukul for 12 plus years, kind of when they were in high school. So making sure, and this kind of goes back to the HSNC campus expansion project, making sure that we continue to think about what the needs of kind of our affinity community is in the future, and how do we make sure that the younger generation has some of that connectivity, I think is important. But also kind of the flip side of that, as folks get older, making sure that there's connectivity. When people have less of a focus on working, oftentimes they go towards spirituality or religion or ways to connect with each other. So being able to support that, I think, is important, and hopefully something that will be able to progress.
Yes, definitely. You are there in the committee. It will take something away. So have you faced any major failures in your journey? If yes, what kind of, and what will be the advice you will provide to the younger generation?
I think everyone faces failures, right? And kind of some of the examples I'll talk about is back in high school, my parents definitely wanted me to be a pre-medicine, kind of pre-med, kind of a physician kind of after graduation. So I kind of followed that role model in undergraduate and kind of did my MCATs. I actually ended up getting into medical school as well. Maybe I didn't get into Duke, I got into some other medical schools. But so I don't know if that was as much of which school I got into, or if it was, hey, can I think about what I want myself versus what is the world telling me I should be doing? But I think everyone has failures, but being able, or changes, right? It kind of goes back to even the concept of failures as an entrepreneur, right? I see it more as a change in, hey, now what should you do? Looking back at what happened, I think, isn't really as important. Thinking about now, what are the options in my future now, and how should I make sure that I succeed within them? So I think everyone has small, large failures, but staying positive, believing, and thinking about the future is important.
Yes. So what advice would you give to the aspiring entrepreneurs and who are just starting their journey, whether old or young?
Yeah, I'd say don't give up, try something, and at worst, again, you'll fail and you'll do something else, or you learn something and you do it better next time.
Yeah, the journey makes us learn a lot. So what would you like to add about the TiE, how it benefits, and like how will you say about the closing statement for the TiE?
I think for me it's all about the supporting each other. There's a degree of kind of giving back as well. I think any kind of young professional, when they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, oftentimes the focus is on your family, on your business or your work, whatever you're doing, and it's hard to really support each other. But I think taking the opportunity every now and then to see, can you be part of places where you're talking about things beyond just your kind of typical social circle conversation of which movie did you see, which cricket team is winning or whatever. I think it's actually helpful for the soul to think a little bit about how you can help each other, how you can think about supporting the local ecosystem in ways that will help us all grow individually as well.
And especially the events make us networking also, will get connected with others. And thank you very much for joining Unfiltered Gupshup, and I'm thankful that you agreed for this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aditi. Loved it. I really appreciate the opportunity. And again, thank you for everything you do for the community.
Thank you.